Hi, welcome. I'm Melia Bensussen, Artistic Director of Hartford Stage, and I welcome you back for our 5th Seen and Heard of this, our 60th anniversary season. This is a very special Seen and Heard because of how extraordinary this play and this cast is. So we are here today to talk about All My Sons by Arthur Miller, and we have 3 extraordinary actors with us. 2 friends returning to Hartford Stage and a debut at Hartford Stage, the wonderful Michael Gaston, who's playing Joe Keller. Next to him is Godfrey Simmons, who is playing Dr. Jim Bayless, their neighbor. And then the extraordinary, and our dear friend Marsha Mason, who makes her return appearance here as Kate Keller, Joe Keller's wife. Jim is their neighbor. We're here to tell you more about this play and our experience, and to just simply share with you some of the things that go through our minds and some of the work we're doing in rehearsal. We've just finished our 2nd week. We're beginning. We're recording this on the first day of our 3rd week of rehearsal, which is a hard week. Oh. So I thank the 3 of you so much.
Hell week.
Why is this week hard? And then we'll talk about the play. But why is 3rd week of rehearsals?
For me?
Yes.
It's because you're starting to get a sense of what you want to do, if not really there yet. And at the same time, you're attempting to memorize the lines to make sure that you can stay on top of it. So your mind is jumping, in a lot of ways. And then as we're running longer sections and we're not talking about them so much or trying to discover them, we're actually starting to apply certain things.
You're in the middle. You're both you're really in the middle, but you're not ready to be in the middle because you're still thinking it through and learning it.
Exactly.
Yeah, it feels like a struggle between 2 different parts of, speaking for myself, 2 different parts of my brain. There's the part that is, as Marsha says, literally just trying to learn all of this language and have it come out in the correct order and come out with the cues so the next person knows when to talk, because they're struggling to learn their lines, and if you don't give them the right, it just, but then there's, as Marsha is saying, you start to have real emotional connection to what you're doing.
Right.
And I think most of us would agree the last thing you need when you want to speak correctly is emotion. So it just creates a sort of double bind, and it's a tough week, but we'll get through it.
And then you're trying to connect with each other.
Right.
Yeah.
That whole thing,
That's
like
right.
at the beginning of the 3rd week, you're starting to make these connections.
You're not acting, you're reacting.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. And so you're connecting emotionally, you're connecting literally in terms of just the text and building off each other, but the personal relationships between the actors, not in a grand, kind of like soap opera way, but I mean just really just getting used to each other. That takes a minute, right? It takes a couple of weeks.
And I love what you're all saying, because I think it's all heightened on this particular play and working on Arthur Miller. And I wonder your thoughts about that. If you've done an Arthur Miller play before, we've actually not had this conversation. I don't know if any of you have worked on Miller before. I know this is my first time directing Arthur Miller. I've wanted to for years and years.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize
Did you not?
that.
Yeah, this is my first time.
Oh, wow.
I know, I feel like I really nerded out on Arthur Miller material, so they all think I know more than I actually know.
No.
Or you're
Well,
faking it.
You have a very elaborate book collection.
Yeah.
I do have a very elaborate, I buy a lot of used books. But I just wonder, because I think all of these challenges that you're describing are even more heightened on a play like this, which requires so much emotional articulation from each of you.
That's an emotional articulation. These characters are pivoting so fast and shifting so fast to keep their lives afloat.
Right, that's a great way to put it. You're all fighting for your survival, so there's not a lot of room to just hang out and have a cocktail.
No.
I don't think another actor just said, looking at the set, there's all this lovely furniture and I never sit in any of it, which I think says something about the play.
Yeah.
What's this play about? And it's about so many things, but if I asked each of you to say what All My Sons is about to you? I love that look.
Yeah.
Marsha's giving me this look
It's
about,
about 2
really?
hours and 20 minutes.
Yes,
intermission.
right, exactly.
How do you get to Carnegie Hall?
It's about secrets in family. It's about a level of principle and morality, your own individual morality, and what society should demand. And Miller touches on so much, and that's what makes the play universal. Because it was written in 1947, the play is taking place in that year, and it's just after World War II. But the morality issue, the classic hero issue, and is very clear in this play. So it has a great message about that as well. And there's also a lot of humor.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a play about the war that takes place after the war. And the profound trauma that people who went away to war come back with to a world that didn't really particularly experience it, and
Yeah.
into a family that only partially experienced it, and in this case, a family that profited from it. It's profoundly complex emotionally that way, and quite flammable. What's the word?
Yeah, no, I
No,
think
that's
that's
great,
good.
yeah.
I mean, I think that this, I think they've nailed it. I think for me, it really comes down to being about community and your responsibility to your community. Your responsibility to, like, who is your community? Is it just your family? Is it the people? Is it your neighbors? And what's our responsibility for our fellow humans? And what's our responsibility to our fellow humans? And I don't know if they're the same thing. They're not the same thing, but I think it's interesting to kind of explore, like, how different those things are. Because I think that's part of the struggle for Joe and for Chris.
So Chris is the Kellers' son, and the play, to add to what you're all saying, becomes in many ways, I feel like, this primal conflict between two generations, and a father and son and a mother who love each other so much. There is so much love in this play. I think that's what, I think I knew that intellectually, but being in the midst of it with all of you is how much this father loves his children, how he will do anything for his boys, right? And does do anything for his boys from his point of view, and what his son, in the one son particularly that we meet, Chris, how much he idolizes his parents and his father, and what he thinks is the right way to be in the world, which to me really speaks. Part of why I wanted to do All My Sons in Hartford at this moment is how resonant this conflict is between the generations for us. What we as parents try to protect our children from, and what we try to prepare them for, versus what our adult children hold us accountable for. And the tensions there, I think, are really in this play, in terms of, there is at the beginning of the play, there's a sort of backstory, right, of a flawed manufacturing, a flaw in the manufacturing of parts of airplanes.
Yeah.
Not unlike what's happening a little bit with the airplane culture at the moment in this country. We didn't intend that. We planned this a year ago, so
Right.
nothing to do with Boeing.
Yeah, I think there's just going backwards slightly in terms of the play being so much of it about community, but one element that we don't often talk about are the ways that different companies profit off the concept of community, how companies profit off the concept of patriotism and country, and that's a lot of what's going on here, except it comes all the way down to the very cellular level, because of the conflict then winds up being
In the family.
within the
Yeah, that's
family,
right.
and the different approaches to that. And I don't know if I have anything else smart to say about that, except that what that winds up creating is an incredibly volatile, dramatic scene.
And the whole play takes place over 18 hours,
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
We
yeah.
start at roughly 9 a.m., say.
Yeah,
Sunday
yeah.
morning,
And
just a regular Sunday morning.
Just a regular Sunday
Regular
morning, and we
Sunday.
end at 2 a.m. So,
Yep,
like a Greek tragedy,
yep,
right, the unity of time is almost held, which is to say it all takes place in one place, in one stretch of time. What is
Yeah.
that? Well,
yeah.
it's a little exhausting, maybe. I don't know.
It is,
Yeah.
it is, yeah.
The set doesn't change much around you. We're in a backyard. We're in the Kellers' wonderful backyard where all the neighbors love to hang out. They're like the perfect family. We all want to be in their backyard.
Mhm.
Kate feeds everybody
Mhm.
brilliantly. She
Mhm.
cooks, she bakes.
Well, we host poker nights, we host.
Yeah,
we
that's
host
right.
All of it,
Everything.
yeah.
And Jim, your wife says you spend so much
He
time
lives
there
next door.
that you should be pay rent. You should be pay rent. What's it, right? I mean, so your character is the closest male friend, I think, to both Joe and to Chris.
Yeah.
You're a little almost representing the community. You're also
Right.
happen to
Yeah.
be a human being.
Yeah.
Right,
Uh,
yeah. No, it's great, because I mean, I feel like that certainly for Jim and for his wife, they're kind of witnesses to what happens.
Oh, that's a great way to put it. I love that, actually.
They're the witnesses. I think it's interesting that I think even myself and Yadi being cast in it is like interesting because it's like I think very often communities of color are witnesses to some of this stuff, right? You're actually like you're kind of watching. You got your eye. You know what I'm saying? It's like that sense, like right? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yes.
you're just watching folk do their thing. What's going on? But also you're the ones who are listening.
Yeah.
We're often the ones who listen. We're often the ones who kind of like help give some type of support or succor or whatever.
And
Yeah.
he's the doctor.
And
So
he's
he's
the doctor.
literally giving
And
support
then
and,
there's that,
succor. Yeah.
then there's that whole narrative in terms of just like who he has to deal with. He's got to deal with crazy people all the time
Yeah.
in his mind, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, yeah.
you know, people think
People
they're
who
sick.
need to be taken
They need
care
to be
of.
taken care of. They need to be heard. They just need to be validated.
You know, I hadn't thought about how much that connects thematically. I mean, it's so obvious now when you say it, but how much you say, I just need to go hold their hands and listen, and then in fact, it's just what.
Well, I mean, you said he was sort of mine and Chris's sort of closest neighborhood friend, but he was also.
He's also Kate's.
Yeah.
Also
He's-
Kate's. I
Yeah.
mean, he really looks after this family.
Yeah,
Whatever the motivations are, that's
Right.
for you. But
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
but that seems to be a central role,
Yeah.
and we rely on you. While, and certainly in my character's case, also kind of resents you a little.
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, because
yeah,
Job has
yeah.
both has the public and the private. He
Yeah.
loves his public
Mhm.
life, but he's got some secrets he doesn't want anybody messing with. So.
Indeed,
Mm.
indeed.
It's interesting, right? So we have this backyard, and we're doing this in our wonderful Thrust Theater, and Michael gets to tread our boards for the first time. But you've both worked on this stage in a thrust configuration,
Yeah.
as we always have it. And what's it like to imagine doing this play in our theater, right? We've been rehearsing in the rehearsal room. We've walked around the stage, but we've not started rehearsing on stage. That won't be for a long time yet. You have so much time.
Months and months.
Months and months, yeah. But
please.
what's it like?
Hours and hours.
Hours and hours, yeah, endless
Yeah.
hours. What's it like to perform, from your point of view, Marsha, on a thrust?
What's really kind of wonderful is having a sort of trial by fire with Lost in Yonkers, both co-directing and then also acting in it, and getting used to the idea of a
Right.
thrust, because the majority of the work has been proscenium or vaguely in the round, you know what I mean?
Yeah, this
But
is
this is a
unique.
very
Yeah.
specific kind of thrust also, in terms of the 3/4 and the audience being that close.
Yeah.
And then you've designed this set that kind of falls, the backyard falls into the
We made it
arms
even
and the-
closer,
yeah.
right? So you as the audience will feel you're in the backyard with
Yeah.
the Kellers. It's
Yeah,
very immediate.
yeah, it is, and it's, But what's really the interesting thing for me personally is how at home I feel in it now. You know,
Because of Lost in Yonkers.
Yeah, I mean, it's just total.
That's awesome.
I'm just find myself looking at to where I am compared to, you know, knowing where the seats are, and
Yeah.
I'm just naturally opening myself up more.
Love
you know
that.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's nice. It's really nice.
And It's a Wonderful Life came down too. So Godfrey starred in It's a Wonderful Life, a radio play, which was not a radio play. It's a play that pretends to be in a radio station. If you didn't get to see that
Yeah.
a couple of years ago now. A
Year
year
and a
ago?
half.
Oh my
something like
God,
that.
or 10 years or
It's
20 or a week ago. It's
Right.
relative.
No, I feel it's funny. What's interesting is it was one of my favorite theaters to perform in. It's one of my favorite theaters to see something in. So that's awesome to be able to work there again. And what I love about it is that I feel more at home there than I do in the rehearsal room. I don't know if you find it, but I really feel like, you know, when I'm in there, you can just kind of, you feel something from the audience. You can feel the moments where you need to be seen. You can feel this thing with the other actors in terms of just like where you need to kind of like pivot. There's a momentum that I feel like that happens in that space.
That's a great way to put it.
Almost with you don't have to work.
Yes,
Obviously, you're gonna see stuff and be like, okay, Simmons, you can't be there. But like,
Yeah.
but there's
No, but there's something very natural about making
Yeah.
shapes on our stage.
The last play I did, which got shut down because of the pandemic, was at the Unspoken and the Publican, was also in
So
Newbury
it's-
Court.
so, right.
It's incredibly comfortable. Even doing plays in Shakespeare in the Park, it's kind of a thrust, the park. and
It's
you-
true.
and you
It's a lot
deliver
like the
things
park,
from- People
yeah.
come up from the VOMs and talk. It's just like Godfrey was saying, I find it really energizing. I love being able to sort of, there's a way where you kind of you constantly have to be aware that everybody's getting a flavor and getting some time of your face, but also almost anywhere you turn, somebody's getting.
That's
it.
right. That's right. That's
So it's
the
sort of
plus. Yeah.
liberating in that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's
Yeah.
liberating. Yeah.
You know, I feel like you three are really unique in the sense of how much TV, film, and theater you've all done. Michael, right now, you're in the middle of shooting things on your days off. Is it very different? I mean, I guess, of course, the answer is it is totally different to act in front of the camera. But I'm just wondering, in your experiences, all three of you, if what are the skills you think that are required or where is it different? Like, what are the specifics, right? I feel like we're all always curious about that with actors.
I'll just say one very, very quickly thing, and it just tags on to what I was just talking about, is that, you know, when you're doing camera work, you kind of have to be aware of where the camera is, or you can be given a great performance and no one will see it. But here the camera is on three sides. So, you know, you want to make sure that you are getting to the VOMs and looking up when you're looking upstage so the most amount of people can see. You sort of have that awareness of where you need to be pointed so that the camera can catch you. The camera being the audience can catch you. So that's a
You're like
similarity.
figure skaters, actors. It's really interesting. There's this very technical. I mean, they're good actors. You're always aware of where your body is in space while speaking, while feeling
That's
things,
true.
while relating.
Yeah.
But there's a sort of right
While
as you
attempting to look out of control.
while attempting to
Yes.
look out of control.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting because sometimes when I've taught, I notice with young people who are taking film acting courses, is they're disconnected from their bodies.
Yes, yeah. I've noticed that in
And-
young actors a
Yeah,
lot.
and it's fascinating for me because the same sort of approach that I would take in the theater, I took when I was in acting.
For all your film
you just,
work.
yeah, and the camera just becomes that audience on a more intimate way.
Right.
And so you've got to have a relationship with the camera without acting to the camera.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's fascinating to see what's happening that way. I personally think, there's no real difference. You just have to be aware of the back of the house or
That's great.
wherever the camera is.
Yeah.
Hello.
When you imagine an audience coming to see this play, which I imagine at this moment you'd rather not imagine an audience quite yet, so this
Thanks.
is really cruel,
Thanks, Melia.
right?
Yeah, right.
I'm here for you guys anytime.
So lovely.
What can they expect? What do you see? I mean, and I also watch all of you enjoying each other in the room. One of the great things of this rehearsal room, it's a lovely company, right? So we have 3 of the, are we 10?
I've never counted.
I think we're 10 actors, including a brilliant 9-year-old.
Yes.
If I may use the word brilliant
Yeah, I
for
think-
our 9-year-old.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But,
Brilliant
I
is
think
out.
sometimes with Arthur Miller plays, we think of them as small family plays. And you realize that Arthur Miller's often writing a neighborhood. And in this play, we have a cast of 10. And we have all of you in and out of the room. And I watch you enjoying each other's work. And so, in a sense, you know what an audience can expect because you're being audiences to each other. So what are some of the things that you relish about what you're seeing in the room that you imagine an audience enjoying?
I think if we get the if we can get the right audience, I think the audience.
You're the right audience.
Yeah, yeah,
Whoever
right,
you
right,
are,
right.
you are the right audience.
Right, exactly. And if you come, I guess what I would say is that I think they might give us some guff. They might talk back a little bit.
Well, that's
I
interesting.
think they might, because I think they're gonna get really engaged in the beginning with the people and the neighborhood. And I think
And
there's
you're
gonna
so
be,
close,
yeah,
and
really
it's-
close. And I think they're gonna be folk who's gonna be like, oh no, or whatever.
Yeah.
That's kinda great,
You know, I think there's gonna be. I expect some vocalization.
And you as our audience, we love that, right? You have our permission. I think sometimes audiences feel they have to
Right,
be
yeah.
quiet and dignified, whereas we want you to lean in, right? And
Oh, that air between the actor and the audience is everything. It's everything. You totally engaged with them. You can tell when they, how to help them become in the sense of when you get really quiet, even though they'll hear you at the back of the house.
Yeah.
And then you feel that, or if something happens and you can feel the shift of energy in the audience, or they have they laugh at a joke that, or a sense of humor, and all of that energy you're constantly playing with it in a way.
I think that's actually a good description of all things that happen in this play.
Oh, totally.
It's a bit of a roller coaster. I mean, there's
Oh,
really
yes,
funny
yeah.
sections.
Really funny stuff. I mean, it starts out particularly lively and funny, and the stakes, while the stakes are low, the humor is sort of high, and then as the stakes rise, then there's a little less and less.
Then it gets the
less-
emotion.
Yeah, but I do think it's actually, I think this is true with sort of all the best of Arthur Miller's plays. Is there's a magic trick that happens where you think you're watching a quiet, fun, intimate little comedy drama between friends and maybe even rivals, and then the next thing you know, it's about the biggest issues that the culture has ever confronted.
I love that.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
true.
love that it does feel like a trick, like a magic
Yeah.
trick.
Yeah.
because
It just
you-
kind of suddenly
you're
it just
sort of
happens.
seduced in, and we go on this ride, and I think only the theater can take you on that kind of ride.
Mhm.
Because you watch this kind of story on a film, even watching Miller on film, and you're able to separate yourself.
Yeah.
Whereas here, we're on the ride with all of you. We are breathing with you.
You can't
as
stop
say.
it.
Yeah.
You can't stop it.
You can't stop it. And also because the characters are coming from the audience onto the stage as well.
Because
So
the entrances,
that's
thanks
right.
to the thrust, it's
Yeah.
really very much.
Yeah.
And the neighbors are from there, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Neighbors,
Yeah.
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the play takes place in Ohio in 1947, but it really feels familiar to me. It feels like these communities that we're all living in.
Oh, totally,
You know.
yeah.
Pratt Whitney, right
Yeah.
here. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a long nose,
Well,
but like,
And even those of us not in technology,
Yeah.
or it's not even technology, that's the wrong, in
Industrial manufacturing.
industrial manufacturing. I mean, no matter what we make, that we get concerned only with those nearest and dearest to us, and we don't think about how our actions have repercussions beyond our own. What's your line, about Larry?
I don't know my line.
The 40-foot,
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
40-foot, yeah.
40-foot front.
the 40-foot front, that, Larry was a good son, he knew.
You didn't think beyond the 40-foot front.
And the play is really wrestling with
Mm.
what are the boundaries we set up of what we think about.
Yeah.
See, some lines.
I know some lines. I know a word here, a word there. Oh, it would be very dynamic out there, don't you?
Well, it will be. It'll be incredibly dynamic. They are learning a lot really quickly, and it is a lot.
The whole
It's a lot.
play is.
And he was so young when you wrote this. So this is Arthur Miller's first Broadway success, 1947. It opens January of 1947.
Yeah, which means he was writing it in 46.
He was
or
writing in
45.
46, 45. And he has letters. We read letters from his brother, Kermit Miller, writing from the front. And some of those letters sound a lot like your son Chris's speeches in the
Oh,
play.
totally,
So
yeah.
it is really immediate to the young Arthur Miller. And the first producer of this play, Harold Clurman, who was also a director, but he produces the play, says the play is built. We were talking about that
Yeah,
today,
today.
that the
It
play is
is,
built.
yeah.
What does that
Means
mean?
it's got roots, it's got a solid foundation, and it's and consequently because of that, all the characters are rooted in a very specific way in
love
terms
that.
of personality, income,
Right,
everything,
right.
education, all of that, so that there is this panoply of people that may form this community or neighborhood. And so I think that the audience can immediately relate. There's somebody and something is being said all the time in the play that I think emotionally can be a way in for the audience.
I love that. Yeah.
When you said that today about what Clurman's quote about it being built, and it's sort of been rattling around in my brain ever since. And I think part of what he's getting at is, don't worry, this thing is made.
Yes.
This play,
That's great.
what you need to do is inhabit it because it's been built for you.
Yeah,
It's here for you. So you don't have to make stuff up. You don't have to build any part of it. There's no design issues. Learn how it works, inhabit it, and live in it. Because it's so solid.
Yeah.
It will be there for you, the performer, for you, the director. It's there for you.
that's really great.
It
That's
is.
true.
And
Yeah.
it is there. And I will say, along with Miller's magic trick, which I think you defined exactly right, the play kind of seduces us, and then suddenly we're having these big questions without it being pedantic. It's
No.
just a great personal, emotional, and moral journey, and it demands extraordinary actors. So I thank you all for your time today. I know it's been a long rehearsal day. So we'll wrap up on these great comments that the play will take you on this journey, these extraordinary voices joined by 7 other really wonderful actors. You don't want to miss All My Sons at Hartford Stage. It's really very, very special. So join us at the theater. Starting on April 11th, we run through May 5th. Go to our website, hartfordstage.org. You'll also learn about talkbacks, an Arthur Miller panel. There's more information on this production, and you can get your tickets there. Don't want to miss this. I know I've said this 3 times, but thank you all for joining, and we'll see you at the theater. Thank you.